Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So while we get started, before we start getting straight into the questions, as you can see, this is us up on the screen. Frederique, would you mind giving me a quick introduction? Your job, what do you do?
Yeah,
you
of
work,
course.
that kind of stuff.
So my name, as you can see, is Frederique van Randwijk. I work for qwic almost 2 years. qwic is they design Dutch e-bikes from scratch. I worked as an HR manager. Before that, I worked for Amperman, which is also a technical Dutch company. And before that, I worked for Heinz, so in the fast moving. So I've done different things. At qwic we design e-bikes from scratch, and we seduce the urban commuters to take the bike instead of the car, because mobility is a topic in Western society. So that's what we do within qwic.
Awesome. And one of the things you mentioned before is you were fast growing. So when you started at qwic, how many people were there, and where have you grown to since then?
I think when I started, we were around 60 employees, and currently we have, I think, around 110.
And it's over the space of 2 years?
Yeah, 1 year and a half, I think.
1 year and a half.
Yeah, I started in July 2018, and I think we're around 110 and 120 employees.
Okay.
Does that include your manufacturing?
Good question. We assemble actually our products in Taiwan and Portugal, so that's not included in. So it's mainly located in Amsterdam. So we have a large innovation R&D team, but also a large customer service team. So we have a lot of dealers. So we don't sell much online. We really sell via a great dealer network in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany.
And your manufacturing is therefore it's outsourced. It's not part.
It's outsourced, yeah. So we have a manufacturer in Taiwan and Portugal. Yeah.
Cool. And before you started with qwic, was there already existing performance management processes in place, or was it something that you got brought in to tackle?
No, there was actually nothing, because we have a very entrepreneurial CEO, and he thought that organizations below 50 employees could be self-organized. So when I entered, we set up basically everything. It was a really cool job, because I think the challenges that come with growth are really nice. So I started with setting up a performance management tool. But before that, we needed to create a little bit more structure. So the first thing that I did was actually to set up a pay policy, because there were a lot of one-on-one discussions with employees around salary topics. So I really want to check if those discussions were justified or
Okay. And you said there was no process at all. Were there any indicators that you know, red flags that were coming up when you started that we really need to start doing this now, or were there any triggers that made you realize this is where we should start because it's the most painful point in your company, or is it just like, let's do anything because we've got nothing at all?
Yeah, I think it was also a wish of our CEO to create a performance management system, but it was also something that I'd noticed, that there were so many people coming in, and you really want to have your people aligned. If you want to go from point A to point B, you really want to know the people understand what the direction is and where they're heading to. So performance management system, especially Impraise, is quite easy to adapt. So that's why we chose to set that up.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent. I didn't make her say that, by the way. You mentioned clarity and knowing getting from point A to point B. Was that your starting point, to focus on creating clarity on goal alignment or company objectives? Was that where you chose to begin the performance management journey?
Yeah. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I think the first thing what we did was really to create some structure. So there was the pay policy with creating job descriptions, but also a job house with level descriptors, so that we could plot people in the organization. So when we had a little bit of structure and people knew the range of their salary scale, we use that actually as a starting point to incorporate actually performance management to relate it also to a possible increase in salary. So my CEO read the book of Laszlo Book. I don't know if you've read it. It's Work Rules. The guy who adopted OKRs in Google, and he said, "I want something like this." I was like, "Okay, great. I'll read the book as well." But I used to work at Ampelman, and there we worked also with OKRs and also with Impraise, and that was very successful. Because it didn't have any paper piles. It's really easy if you have quarterly goals to change them a little bit along the way. And what I really like is that you also put the employee in the leading position, because if you have your organization goals defined, then you can easily say, okay, what are the individual goals and team goals? They should add up to the organization goals. So it's easy to give direction to your organization.
Yeah. And was the way you worked, was the organization goals already existed? So then you put them into the system, or did you have to go through the process of setting those goals in the first place because they didn't exist at all?
Well, I think, to be honest, slightly adjust them. They had 10 bold steps, and we reform them, make them smaller into OKRs. So readjust them, I think, honestly. Yeah.
And before you mentioned something about a quarterly basis. Now, implementing a new system in the first place can be quite challenging. What made you decide to go with the quarterly structure in the first place? Because it's quite a lot of change 4 times a year to go through a kind of a big process like this.
Yeah, I think it is, but it gives you also a lot of benefits, because there were so many new people coming in. I think we around 5 employees each month were entering the company. So it's really nice to actually have a check-in each quarter. Okay, looking back, what went well, but more importantly, maybe is to look forward, do a feed forward. Okay, if you set your goals, did you achieve them? It's really nice if you create quarterly goals to make them really ambitious. If you reach 70 to 80%, you've done a really good job. And then for the next quarter, set the next ambitious goals and really check with your manager. Are you doing well, or how can we help, or have that little moment, little check-in. So you gather all your data for the end of the year, so you have
a full view of everything that's gone on.
Yeah, you have more data points also to do a performance review.
Okay. And hands up if anyone has any questions, by the way, but I'm going to keep going. So were there any really big challenges that you came into as you went to roll out this OKR process and the making people do it on a quarterly basis and asking people to use the tool?
Yeah, of course. I think the difficult part is that you don't want to implement a tool. You really want to help the business. So what I think is really nice to do an HR intervention on burning business issues. So yeah, really to explain why you want to implement an OKR system and why you want to implement with Impraise. Luckily, I think that will answer your question a little bit. I had the support of my CEO because he really wanted to work with OKRs, and he was also really enthusiastic about Impraise. So that business case was, for me, quite easily. But we didn't have a management structure because we were not really organized. So we really had to train our managers to let them understand what is a performance system, how does it work, what is expected from you, so that they could train their employees. So it was not an HR party. It was it could benefit them instead of it could benefit HR.
Yeah, you had to really prove the value on their side as opposed to it being data entry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And I really like the point you just made about your managers were very vital in that part.
Yeah.
Did you have to offer them training to get to the point of being able to do what they needed to do? How did you go about getting them ready for?
Yeah, so they didn't have any training, so they did some. They were key. They had already key roles within the organization, but they were not appointed as managers already. So what we did was gave them the real manager title that helped them also to give the more trust, and we provided an actually off-the-shelf leadership training via No-Nons, to give them the right tools, to train them a little bit in leadership skills.
Right.
So, and I think that was helpful, because we're currently training our team lead, so we try to give it to the next group of people.
Next layer
down.
down.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you found, and that was the leadership training is separate to the performance management. That was just the skill set that they needed to be able to feel confident as managers.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that an ongoing quarterly training? Do they get upskilled every year?
No. But we do provide them an education budget, so for them to seek something that they want to develop in. What we also did is we provided the total company with a training of confronting in a respectful way, because we really want to encourage the feedback, minimize complaining. If you just don't like something, try to fix it, or stop complaining about it. So I think if you're growing fast, you have all these issues that you want to resolve, and so that's what we did.
Have you found any people running around confronting everyone, trying to fix these problems, or has it worked quite well?
Well, I think we are a bit more mature in confronting each other or giving feedback. I think there's still a lot of work to do, but
so then you would agree that investing in your people has really helped with just letting the business grow organically and not having to continually try to maintain that.
Yeah, I really agree that if you really want to grow your business, you need to grow your people. So investing in your people, I think, is really key to support the business.
Great. I know, but these guys don't know that you've done a leadership review using Impraise.
Yeah.
And a leadership review typically is bottom-up feedback, so where employees give feedback on their managers, which can be quite a scary thing if you're responsible for a team of people. Could you talk a little bit about how, one, you got the buy-in of the managers to be willing to do something like that?
Is that anonymous or is that
transparent? You can choose, actually, I think, in Impraise, but we did it not anonymous, because we really want to have the open, transparent culture. We decided to do it, I believe, not anonymous. But I think we implemented Impraise in December 2018, and then I think in February we did a peer review. So people were already familiar a little bit with giving feedback to each other, and they were really enthusiastic about the feedback that they received. I think a lot received quite honest feedback, and what was really nice that I also received a brief email course from Impraise to help them give feedback. But because we also provided the leadership training from No-Nons, that was a perfect entrance for them to also see if it helped them grow as a leader or manager. So they were quite open to receive feedback from their team members. So I think that's why because we planned for success, we gave them the training and the trust. They were also really willing to do the leader. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And do you have any examples of some of the questions that the leaders got feedback on in that review session?
Good question.
Were they more about skills and competencies they were trying to gain feedback on, or was it more on soft skills, or what was the type of feedback they were looking to get in this?
I think a mixture.
Okay.
And I think the interesting part is always that you sometimes expect feedback. You're already aware, if you're a bit self-reflective, aware of things that you're good at and perhaps not good at, but then you also have your blind spots. And that really provides new insights for managers. So I think that was nice for them to read and to do something about it, because I think you have to follow up on the feedback to really make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What was your experience with regards to sugar-coated feedback? If you do the bottom-up,
Not much, to be honest. It was my first leadership review because I wasn't in the lead for the leadership review at Amperman. So for me, it was the first time. Luckily, they did a sort of review with another company when I wasn't working there for the total company, and they were sugarcoating everything, but really framing it as a development opportunity and wanting to help each other. That helps giving honest feedback, and also I think how you phrase it. You have different options in Impraise to choose an open question or to choose a rating scale from 1 to 8. You can add a comment to it. I think it's worked really well to give honest feedback.
But you need the training, I assume, before, or that helped.
Yeah, that really helps. Yeah, you want to frame it well, so the output is. I think you want to prepare it well for the good result.
Yes.
You touched just quickly on Amperman in your time. I'd be interested to understand, when working in one organization and the other, what the differences you saw in the performance management ways of working, and how you saw Impraise supporting both of the different use cases.
I think Amperman was already more mature when we introduced Impraise. I think we were already over 200 employees and working worldwide. So we had 11 offices worldwide. So I think Impraise really helped get rid of all the paper forms and annual reviews, because it was changing really fast. People were really happy just to do it on their laptops and mobile phones. And I think for QWIC, we were rather small. I think we were around 60 or 70 people when we introduced it, mainly in the Netherlands. So it was much smaller, but the majority never did a performance review or management ever. So we had to train them a little bit more in what is an OKR, what is a performance management system, why do we do this? So that was, I think that was the main difference. The different companies,
and the size of the business at the time that you joined, and where that
and the background,
exactly. But you said that Amperman was more global at the time, and at the time with QWIC, when you started, it was more focused in the one region. But both seemed to work for what you were trying to do.
Both were really successful, because we had at Amperman, we really had a lot of paperwork, making sure that papers were handed out and filed. Was for HR a lot of workload, and I think that really helped Amperman, and for QWIC it was really nice to start off in a good way, using the tool, making it very easy for people to fill in their OKRs, and we ran the cycle, and that made them really aware that it's useful to have these data points, because in the end you really want to have a fair discussion with your employees on whether or not they done a good job or less of a good job.
At the start, you mentioned building frameworks for growing through your career within the organization. You also mentioned having performance conversations. Do you separate performance conversations with development conversations and pay rise, or is it all kind of rolled into one system in the way you go about measuring?
I think both. So we have a performance management system that is linked to a pay raise. So if you're doing a really good job, we have a matrix, and if your salary is a bit lower than the median and you do a really good job, the raise will go up more. But we also have development discussions. So we offer a development budget for every employee, and he or she is free to use it in the way that they think they will benefit from it. So that's not linked to performance. Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. I wanted to go back to measuring performance. You said with QWIC there was nothing that existed before, and you had to create a lot of the ways of working. How do you, as an HR personal team, measure success as what you're doing as HR?
I think that's a tough question, but a good question. So if I understand you correctly, how I, as an HR person, measure
you've done a good job.
So I think if you put your managers and employees in the lead, I really think if they understand what you're doing and they understand the benefit of it, and they really want to adopt it, learn from it, I think that's quite helpful for your organization, but also for your HR department, because you've done a good job explaining the reason why you want to implement something, why it's good for the business, and why you think it could be a success. I think
would you then say engagement of people using the processes that you implement is when you've done a good job because they're engaged and they're doing, that's a metric that you measure, engagement.
And also gather feedback and try to listen to them and adapt along the way if something is not working. Try to be open to their feedback as well and see if you can continuously improve your cycle.
Yeah. So any questions from the crowd? Right. Joshua?
Is there anything in Impraise that you would have wished Impraise can do, but it doesn't?
Of course. So one thing, I think it is still possible with a workaround, but we have an R&D team. They are working on confidential stuff, and I think the nice part of Impraise is that it's easily transparent and visible to everyone, but sometimes you just don't want it to be visible to everyone, and you can turn it off. But if you have let's say an R&D manager and team leads, and then the head of the R&D wants to see the goals of the people, I think you can edit them to the goals, but you have to do a sort of workaround. So that's something that I recently discovered, but I thought it was not possible in Impraise. So these things, sometimes you have to figure out how it works.
What's next at QWIC? So you've done a lot of OKRs and leadership stuff. Your team's growing. What do you think will be the next initiative you launch?
Good question. We've not been working very much with engagement. So I think that will be a topic this year as well. We had quite a tough year last year because we had to move our fabric from China to Taiwan and Portugal because of tax rulings in China. So I think keeping the people engaged and motivated will be a topic. Retaining talent.
Why did that impact engagement?
Because we had a difficult year where we needed to get more funding in. So instead of focusing fully on growth, we had also a financial issue. And then, it's difficult to manage that all.
Definitely.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Carlotta from Van Randwijk. We're Spotify for classical music. Long story short. Ironically speaking, we're a tech platform, but our CEO is everything but tech savvy, and he also hates to get reminders over Outlook email. Have you encountered such a situation, and how did you deal with it? That this person still was engaged with Impraise.
So if I understand you correctly, if I had difficulties to engage my CEO or
someone else that was not into software or using anything.
Well, I think I was lucky because I have a CEO who has a tech background, and our CFO was very enthusiastic also about using OKRs. So using Impraise and OKRs. They cheered when I said I would implement it, so that was quite easy for me to do so. And because we have also a lot of engineers, IT people, they really want to gather data. So I have not dealt really with that kind of issue or problem. I don't know if perhaps anyone else in the audience have dealt with it, but
yeah, it's often difficult to get like the only way to get a CEO moving if you want to get buy-in from them is to make really clear what they want out of it. Because Impraise is only a mean in order to achieve something. So it's really clear, okay, if we start using this, maybe we do not like tools. The rest of the organization just, do we want to keep them? Yes, okay. Then we should help them in order to support.
I will definitely get the software. That's not a question.
Yeah.
The doubt is if we will use it or not.
Yeah.
And he hits me every day with feedback, so he loves it.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good for those cases. I had one for one of such cases in the past, and we asked the PA from the CEO to just enter the feedback in the system as well. But it was for a slightly bigger organization.
Just tell them you don't listen anymore, you only read.
But that's in general.
put earplugs in.
As long as I don't get feedback, then I get pay raise.
I've got a question. Often performance management is perceived as a burden for a lot of people. It's time consuming. How did that work for QWIC and for the employees?
I think it worked quite well because we didn't have anything, and before that we used as I called it, the piepje system for I don't know how to translate it in English, to get a pay raise. So that's not quite fair and honest, and it was a way to set the employees in the lead of their own performance, but also of their own pay raise. So they immediately had the incentive to use it for development reasons, of course, but also if they wanted to get a pay raise, they could influence that themselves. So I think that helped them get them in the driver's seat.
And then who's owning or driving the conversations, the employee or the manager? Or
both, and I think I'm not very strict how you should use them. So normally you have OKRs, you have a quarterly cycle, you have 3 objectives and 3 key results. But we have engineers saying, I'm working on a project for 6 months, and I said, okay, well, if you want to do it in a half-year cycle and that works for you and your manager, fine by me. It needs to work for you. You don't have to fit it in because I say so. And that really gave them also some freedom to use it in a way that was working for them. So I think also give them a freedom a little bit how they want to use it can help.
So they can adjust the cycle.
Yeah, you can say, okay, this is a yearly thing, recurring, or you can adjust the date quite easily. Yeah. Yeah, welcome.
The feedback thing is from top to bottom and bottom to top, both ways, right?
Yeah.
You give them in the beginning, you train them how to deal, like how to give the feedback and which way to give it. But onwards, do you train them how to deal with it? Because once in the beginning, it's new, it's exciting. But doing it, maybe even if you do every quarter, it can get frustrating.
Yeah.
So do you give any kind of training how to deal with it?
Yeah, we're currently struggling also a little bit with making aware that there is an OKR cycle. So what I try to do is also, again, involve our CEO, make them aware that the OKR is an important topic, provide, again, the feedback course, share regular updates, again. So I think it's the repetition of the communication that really helps, making sure that they really understand why we're doing this, and communication is key, I think, in this. And I always say swing by. I sometimes do open office hours, so walk-in sessions for managers or employees to support them setting up OKRs. Because mainly for sales, sometimes quite easy. We have a dealer network, and you can easily make a key result. Okay, you have X number of dealers, you need to increase them next quarter with 10 dealers and sell X number of e-bikes per. But for some rules, it's more difficult. So if you just think with them, they really like it if they see where they're heading. Welcome.
Yeah, I do have another question. So we have 2 evaluation cycles a year, and then by the end of the year we decide on the salary increase per person, or per team, sorry. But how do you do the calibration? Because, for example, if the CTO is in a very happy place and says like, my team is doing great, they all score a 5. That's the highest number. But then the CEO says like, no, my team is like 3.5. But based on like the outcomes, it might like be the same number in the end. How do you do the calibration?
We did a calibration this year with a full management team. So what I did is, you expect a sort of standard deviatie. Thanks. So what I did is just gathered all the data, plot them in graphs, show them how we rate as a company, what we expect to rate, and then also divide it per department. And they had to explain why they gave either high ratings or low ratings. And then we could have brief discussions about the layers of the ratings. And they were sent back to the drawing table to rethink or readjust the ratings. But again, there also the manager was in the lead, and he had to align with our CEO. So we were facilitating the process, but the final call was the manager together with the CEO. But it was a very, I think we took the whole afternoon to really thoroughly go through each rating and discuss them, but also ask questions. I think if you're open and give them new insights, they are really able, they want to rethink if it's fair to give the rating or not.
Mm-hmm. Until what extent did like all the feedback that you collected from Impraise support that process, like the discussion?
I think it did help also gather feedback on, because you can really easy customize your own performance cycle. So what I also did is, as a management team, we really wanted to gather feedback also on how QWIC was doing well, or how we could improve. So we add an open question to the review cycle, and I gathered all the feedback in Impraise, and it gave me very nice insights on what we're doing really well, but also what we could improve. And this is something that I will give back coming Monday. We have coffee minutes to share with the business. So I think it's quite easy to distract the information from Impraise, but also to customize it, because you can have different topics in different moments. So you can just add that question to the cycle.
I have one more question, and then we'll have your question. If anyone's got one more, I think then we might be able to. Frederique actually lost her voice recently, so she's done a great job for talking for this long. So
Okay.
I'd like to. Do you want to ask your question, and then I'll wrap up?
Just quickly. If you've implemented with a couple of companies, have you ever had like an issue with, not another tool kind of thing? Because we've grown from 600 to 1,000 in the last year, and in that time it's been a bit hectic, and there've been a lot of different things happening, and I think we have issues with like, there's a new this, there's a new that, where do we go, what's going on? So
I can totally understand that, but I think if you really understand why you want to do certain things, and I think it's more easy to implement the tool, and if you understand, if you have a burning business issue and you have a tool that really supports that burning issue, then you should be able to share that information with the key stakeholders, and I think even better that they can share it with their employees, so it's not an HR tool or other department tool that they want to implement. But I really understand what you're saying, and I think if you're, at least what we had at QWIC, if you're growing fast, sometimes you implement too fast, but you learn while you go, and then you change systems sometimes. Yeah, that's the way it is. Sometimes it's just learn as you go.
I have one last question, and then there's more burning ones. But what were the biggest benefits that you've realized from the performance management processes that you've done from Amperman, from QWIC? The most beneficial things that have come out of it?
I think that it's data driven. I think it's really nice that Impraise, you can use it on your mobile phone. It's user friendly, so you can easily sit together, set your OKRs. It's cascading down towards the organization. So you have a very nice overview of where you're heading. So I think that's if you have focus, then hopefully it will benefit the business. So I think that that's really nice.
That's great. I mean, I'm sure everyone can speak from the room. You've had some amazing insights and got a huge amount of experience in dealing with organizations from varying sizes and people as well. So thank you very much for your time today, and we really appreciate it. And